Hello, I am Peter Okwache. Welcome to Focus on Africa. Our top stories. All 78 children abducted in northwest Cameroon on Sunday are freed. They've been questioned by the military, but who are the kidnappers? The first Somali American to be elected to Congress as Democrats take control of the U.S. House of Representatives. Counting is underway in Madagascar's presidential election as polls close. The three leading contenders are all former presidents. Also on the program, the citizen group in the Democratic Republic of Congo calling for political reform. Banned by the government as an illegal movement, La Lucha is trying to challenge the country's political deadlock. And in sports, more European Champions League action tonight as Juventus take on Manchester United at home. Thanks for joining us on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. We start in Cameroon, where the 79 schoolboys abducted by gunmen from a school in Bamenda have been released. They were freed last night, dropped off at a church compound. Some of them have been reunited with their families. The boys have spent most of the day being questioned by the military. It's not yet known who kidnapped them or why. Cameroon's government has blamed Anglophone separatists for the abduction, while the separatists accused the government of stage managing the kidnap to give them a bad name. Let's get the latest now from our correspondent Maini Jones in Lagos. Maini, do we know how these boys were released?
Hi, Peter. No, the circumstances of the students' release is not yet known, but we're getting more and more details as some of them have now been reunited with their families. And a young girl and her dad just spoke to the BBC, and the girl was revealing that whilst they were kept in a captivity, they were treated very well. She says they were fed. The only problem is they were unable to bathe over the last couple of days. But the interesting thing about the interview is she's absolutely adamant that she was kidnapped by what she calls the boys, which is the name that's used to refer to the Anglophone separatists. How does she know this? She says she knew it because of their accent. She said they spoke pidgin English, whereas members of the Cameroonian military would speak French or would try and speak English, but their English would be broken.
Maini, that's a very interesting point, isn't it? Because in the past couple of days, we've heard the separatists insisting that a voice of one of the kidnappers, which we heard on TV, on a video clip, was not the accent of an Anglophile in that part of the country.
Yeah, the whole incident is shrouded in mystery. Different details are emerging all the time, and it's quite difficult to get a clear picture of what's happening. Even the video still hasn't been confirmed. We don't know if it was relating, say, to this incident. This morning, a statement emerged from the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. It was dated from Monday, but for some reason, it was only made public today. And they claimed that there was another kidnapping that had happened last week where 11 boys were taken. Now, in that video, you only see about 11 boys, so it's unclear whether that video relates to this kidnapping that happened on Monday or to the one that happened last Wednesday.
And Maini, as you said, these over 70 children who have now been released, some of them have been reunited with their parents. Why haven't the others?
Yeah, so apparently a number of children said that they were feeling unwell. Some complained of headaches. Some said they had other physical ailments, and so they were taken to hospital. So many parents are still anxiously waiting to be reunited with their children. The authorities say nobody is badly injured, but that they wanted to make sure that all the children that had been released were taken care of, and any health issues they might have were being addressed.
Okay, Maini Jones, thank you very much, speaking to us there live from Lagos. Now, in the last hour, President Trump has described the U.S. midterm election results as a big day for Republicans. But he could be putting on a brave face on it. While they consolidated their grip on the Senate, the Republicans lost control of the House of Representatives, which means the Democrats could disrupt Mr. Trump's legislative program. And history has been made as Ihan Omar, who came to the U.S. as a refugee, becomes the first Somali American to be elected to Congress. The BBC's Mercy Juma is in her hometown of Minneapolis. Mercy, what's the mood there today?
Indeed, Peter, like you said, this has been a historic election, and you say Democrats have taken control of the House of Republicans. But where we are, this is the University of Minnesota, which is the home turf of Ilhan Omar. The more things are getting back to normal, but you can tell that people are really excited, especially in this institution, because the students at this institution formed a very big part of Ilhan Omar's campaign team, and they have been excited. Yesterday, we managed to attend her election night party, where people were energetic. They were singing and dancing, and people coming out to just congratulate this woman who is now being looked at as a symbol of power, somebody who's giving hope to not only refugees, but even people who've been born and raised in the U.S., especially the young people. And this report that is coming up next just gives you a feel of how everything went down at her election night party. When she moved to America, Ilhan Omar was a teenage refugee. Now she's a congresswoman.
We must stand side by side and fight for our democracy. We must fight.
Ms. Omar convinced nearly 80% of voters to get behind her message.
It is up to us to fulfill the promise of America.
Her term begins in January, but the impact of her win is already being felt by Somali communities here.
As a woman, I'm telling you, as a woman, as a refugee, as a Somali, this is a big thing. This is a big, and I'm sure she's gonna do more. She's gonna do more for the Muslims. She's gonna do more for the refugees. She's gonna do more for everyone who lives in Minnesota. Hopefully, she will remember this. She will remember where she came from. She will remember where she's going, and she's not gonna get scared by anyone.
She truly was born to do this, and I mean it's exciting to see because of the time we're in right now. A woman of color, Muslim, young woman, a mother, to really achieve this.
Throughout the country, people are choosing hope over fear and unity over division. And it's a really exciting opportunity in a time when Somalis are on the Muslim ban. To be sending a Somali refugee to Congress, Minnesota is sending a clear message. And it's an exciting opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Now that the midterm election is over, it is time to get down to business. Many promises were made on the campaign trail, from better health care, a better economy to affordable housing, and many more. Americans will be waiting to see if all these will come to life. Indeed, Peter, that is how it went down, and that mood is still being felt. Congratulatory messages are being sent across to her on Twitter, on Facebook, and people here are just waiting to see her now come forth, speak to them, and get things moving for the people of Minnesota.
And Mercy, of course, a big result for Ms. Omar, but she wasn't the only representative with connections to Africa to end up in Congress, was she?
No, indeed, Peter, she was not the only one. We have a gentleman called Joe Neguse, who is the first black congressman for Colorado. Joe Neguse is of Eritrean descent, and he's the first person of Eritrean descent to do this. He is representing Colorado's 2nd District as its congressman. And he comes out really strong because during his campaigns, he really spoke about immigration. His parents moved here 35 years ago, and he says one of the factors that motivated him was everything immigration going on now, and he keeps wondering if his parents were to move to America right now, how it will be. It will definitely have not ended well for them. So that and many others make up, conclude this election. And Peter, it will be very interesting to see how the two parties, the Democrats and Republicans, relate henceforth, especially in the next 2 years in Congress.
Okay, Mercy Juma there in Minneapolis. Thank you very much. And President Trump has been speaking on those results from the midterm elections in the U.S. He's been speaking for around 35 minutes now. There's more coverage on the U.S. midterms online, plenty of analysis, all the winners and losers. Just head to bbc.com/news. Let's take a quick look now at other stories making the headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. In Uganda, vaccinations for frontline health workers in high-risk districts bordering the Democratic Republic of Congo have started. They will be given to some 3,000 frontline health workers. The move has been prompted by fears that the outbreak currently affecting the DR Congo could soon cross into Uganda. The leader of Nigeria's Shiite Muslims, who's been in custody since 2015 following deadly clashes between troops and his supporters, has been denied bail. Ibrahim Zakzaki is facing charges of culpable homicide and unlawful assembly, which he has denied. His court appearance comes after fresh clashes last week between his supporters and the police. They were demanding his release. Counting has begun in the first round of Madagascar's presidential elections. Thousands of international observers are monitoring the poll on the Indian Ocean island, which has experienced multiple political crises. In recent years, the race has been dominated by 3 current and former presidents. All are promising to boost the economy in a country where more than 3/4 of the population lives in poverty. The outgoing president, Henry Rajaonarimampiana, was sworn into office in January 2014 and is seeking a second term. He's being challenged by 2 political heavyweights, Mark Ravalomanana, who held the position from 2002 until 2009, and Andre Rajoelina. He assumed power from Mr. Ravalomanana in 2009 in what the African Union called a coup. Well, reporting from Antananarivo, our correspondent Raisa Issouf.
In Antananarivo, voter turnout was slow in the morning and didn't always get better in the afternoon. On the ballot, the Malagasy people have 36 options to choose from for the new leader. But the electoral campaign has been dominated by 3 former presidents. It's likely that the new leader will be someone who already held power.
I call upon them to accomplish their duty for the elections. It's so important, it's crucial for our nation to accomplish the election. And this is the process of democracy in Madagascar.
Also hoping for another term in office is Andre Rajoelina, who led the country from 2009 to 2013.
I call on all the Malagasy people to make their choices in order to determine who will lead the country for the next 5 years.
The outgoing president, Rajaonarimampiana, who is seeking a second term, made this appeal.
I am sure that people will make efforts today so that peace prevails for democracy and the respect of the Malagasy people.
Officials have praised an election which took place without incidents or violence. Around 10,000 security forces have been deployed across the country to secure the vote. But here in the capital, Antananarivo, few soldiers have been seen in polling stations.
For this election, I hope for many things. For one, I hope that the country will move forward, and I also hope that the president will keep his promises. But it's also important to know that the Malagasy population is also responsible for the country, and not just the president.
For these elections, everyone, and me in particular, are waiting for a radical change. For starters, with the form of governance, that corruption no longer exists, and that all the resources here in Madagascar are handled in a more rational way.
The people who did vote today hope that the new president will keep his promises, but some here in Madagascar are indifferent about the election. In a country where 75% of the population lives in extreme poverty, most people are just trying to survive. Raisa Issouf, BBC News, Antananarivo.
This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News with me, Peter Okwache. Still to come, Mimi has all the sports stories as South Africa's captain targets a spot at the Women's World Cup next year. I'm Peter Okwache. The top stories, this are: all 78 children abducted in northwest Cameroon on Sunday have been released. Some have been reunited with their families. And Ilhan Omar becomes the first Somali American to be elected to Congress as Democrats take control of the House of Representatives. Elections in the Democratic Republic of Congo are due to be held on the 23rd of December. President Joseph Kabila postponed them in 2016, a decision which led to widespread protests across the country. One of the protest groups is La Lucha, a non-violent citizen youth group estimated to have about 1,500 members. The Congolese government has banned the movement, saying it is illegal, but that hasn't stopped them from calling for political reform. The BBC's Africa's investigation unit, Africa Eye, has followed them for the past 2 years.
Meet La Lucha, the young activists fighting for a better Congo. Luke Nkulula is one of the group's founders. They are campaigning for democratic elections and for President Joseph Kabila to quit after 17 years in office.
The election should have been organized a long time ago. They should let us express ourselves, and then we could come to a common ground.
This is Rebecca. She spent 6 months in jail for campaigning. La Lucha are marching on the Electoral Commission in Goma.
Like today, everybody will ask me, will you be there, Rebecca? So I say to myself, I have to be there to give others courage.
La Lucha's protesters often end up getting arrested. But this is a cause for which they are prepared to risk their lives.
Là, j'ai laissé un peu d'argent ici.
I leave some cash behind so that everything is covered. It's for my little sister in case I don't come back.
Au cas où je ne reviens pas.
In June this year, Luke's home caught fire. He was trapped inside by security bars on the window. The UN and Goma authorities concluded that the fire was started by a faulty solar panel battery. Rebecca doesn't believe them.
It was planned. They probably put some fuel on his house. They burned Luke's house. They killed him off.
Whether Rebecca is right or not, Luke's death has given La Lucha its first martyr. Elections are scheduled for 23rd December 2018.
And that report was compiled by BBC Africa's investigative unit, Africa Eye. You're watching BBC Focus on Africa. It's now time for some sport. Mimi, what have you got for us?
Champions League, Peter, more of it today. So, as I said, the European Champions League continues tonight, and 2 games are already underway at half-time. CSKA Moscow versus Roma, as well as Valencia versus Young Boys. But the pick of the bunch tonight is Juventus, who take on Manchester United. The Italians beat United 1-0 in the first leg. Juventus coach Massimiliano Allegri has played down reports which quoted defender Mehdi Benatia as saying he was not getting enough playing time this season. The Morocco defender was quoted by Italian media on Tuesday as saying that you get tired of only playing once in a while. Benatia has been called up to the Morocco squad to play Cameroon in their upcoming 2019 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. Nigeria captain John Obi Mikel will miss the rest of the Chinese season with his club Tianjin Teda after suffering a muscle injury in training. Mikel hasn't played for his country since the World Cup and was left out of the recent Nations Cup qualifiers due to fitness concerns. Moving on, South African captain Janine van Wyk says the upcoming Women's Africa Cup of Nations finals will be emotional. The top 3 from the Nations Cup finals qualify for next year's World Cup in France. Their tournament begins on November the 17th and the final will be in December. Head coach Desiree Ellis has included 2 uncapped players in the 21-player squad. She has also included 13 players who represented South Africa at the last Nations Cup in Cameroon, where they finished 4th. Meanwhile, Morocco's Rim Shopki has been speaking about the state of women's football in Morocco. Established in 2005 in Tamara, just outside the Moroccan capital Rabat, her team, Ain Atik, are one of the most distinguished women's football teams in the country. The side has been in the first division since 2008 and has been ranked 3rd in the national championship. Nevertheless, they face the same difficulties as any other Moroccan women's football club.
The disadvantage is that there are no financial resources, if we want to be realistic, especially for the players who have studies and those who work. It's difficult for them to move to other cities, especially the southern cities. For example, if you go on a Thursday, you have to then take a day off to rest, so there are many difficulties.
Finally, Kenyan champions Gor Mahia say they learned a lot from their 4-0 defeat away to English Premier League side Gor Mahia Everton. Of course, on Tuesday night, Gor Mahia's captain Harun Shakava says when they go back to Kenya, they would be a harder team to beat after their match last night at Goodison Park. And that's all the sport. Back to you.
Many thanks, Mimi. Now, beards are big business. The popularity of facial hair for men, that is, has been a worldwide trend, and it's not going away. But for men who decide to make this style statement, it's quite a commitment. The BBC Money Daily team went to Lagos and Johannesburg to meet 2 sets of brothers making the most of this growing fashion.
Yeah, my beard is like my personality. Soft, smooth, rugged, warm, welcoming. Yeah, you know. Multifaceted. I remember in the workplace, sometimes I was looked at as unserious or maybe not as dedicated. Now it's a normal thing. If you look at my dad and my uncles, they're all growing their beards now, but you know, they all have salt and pepper beards, but you know, so now it's a trend. Yeah.
There are a lot of beards which still have issues out there. For example, with Malawi and Zambia, you'd find people going to the extent of using cooking oil for the beards. It was a bit concerning.
So the problem was there. They want to have longer beards, they want to have beards that don't itch, and we want to help solve people's problems.
It draws attention, so people just want to come and meet you, and from there you start a conversation, you end up finding out you can work together. It's actually an added advantage in the business industry that we're in at the moment. And having a well-groomed, well-put-together beard is like, it's like the tip of the iceberg. It just adds that extra cool.
We specifically add an oil that increases the shelf life of the oil.
We source them from different parts of the continent from more than 100 different farmers. So we felt as if this is a good opportunity to showcase to the rest of the world what Africa has.
Listen, first of all, don't touch the beard. Come in here, I think you've got the best beard in Lagos.
You're not on my level, cuz. Yeah. Chief, look at this. This is like 5 inches or more of awesomeness.
No. Comparison is the thief of happiness. That's what I'll say.
So should I or should I not? Nah. Let's take you back to the White House now, where President Trump is still speaking after the midterm election results. The Republicans made a gain by retaining the upper house, that's the Senate, while the Democrats have now gained control of the House of Representatives. And we do have a hint that President Trump will stand for re-election in 2020 because he has said that his Vice President Mike Pence would be his running mate once again. So President Trump still speaking at the White House. That's it on Focus on Africa for today. Thanks for watching. See you again, hopefully, tomorrow.